a Pantry Studio production.
The following may contain strong language and deals with adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I will be the last to fall. I won't shed a tear for them to see. I won't have your name to call, 'cause I will be the last to fall.
With over 24% of the 1.9 billion square acres in America alone, the mountains that so many people call home are also host to some of the most incredible mysteries in the world. The missing, the murdered, strange creatures, unexplained lights, and sightings of unidentified objects. These stories may be strange, they may be sad, they may be odd, but they are mysterious. These are the Mountain Mysteries Gatherings. And now, live from the Pantry Studio, broadcast to all time zones around the world, with listeners of the podcast in the United States, Canada, Germany, Norway, India, the United Kingdom, and more. These are the Mountain Mysteries Gatherings. Now, your host, Chris Sloan.
I guess it never hurts to turn on the camera. I thought I was going to have to call Arrow again to get him to come over here and push a button. Good evening. I am your host, Chris Sloan, the Mountain Mysteries, host of the Gatherings, the Blurs, the Chills, and I don't know what the hell else we're going to come up with next, but it'll be something. I'd almost bet money on that. You saw the home screen tonight, and I'm going to try my best to get through this. Yeah. It's happened again. You know, losing somebody that you love is hard. And it's something you don't get over, but every once in a while you run across somebody that makes such a difference. Sorry. His name was Oliver Little. We called him Ollie. Just about everybody knew him, called him Ollie. Some people, dispatchers, what have you, a lot of them called him 212. You know, he was Floyd County Sheriff's deputy. Before that, he worked in the medical field as a EMT/paramedic, and he was just one of those guys that had this smile. He was almost always smiling until he didn't, and that's when he knew that shit was getting ready to get real, because he was. I mean, most officers, and all the officers I know, they're top-notch people. They train hard, they bust their ass, they work hard, and they fight a war that can't be won. But they fight, they keep fighting, they go and they go and they go, and they don't quit, because that is in their nature. It's not in their nature to lay down and stop. It's not in their nature to quit. But this guy, wow. Seems like for the last, well, since I found out, I've been a mess. I'm not going to talk about how he left. I'm going to talk about how he lived. Because this whole thing tonight is all for that guy right there in that corner of the screen. I remember when I first met him, I thought, what's he grinning about? uh, and he'd come to me looking for a place to live. Well, of course, I was happy to, oblige him, of course. And from that day forward, life was different, better. Now, there's 1,000 different memories, and I can't get into all of them. But I can tell you this, his dedication was true. His heart, massive. And his loyalty didn't waver. He left and went to Florida for a while, and I hated to see that go, but it's like I told him, brother, you got one life to live, be happy, because every second you're not happy. Well, he's down there for, I don't know, maybe a year, give or take, and I get this phone call one day on my cell, because Ollie and a lot of the Floyd County SOs, some of the Prestonsburg PD, a few state troopers, they've got my number. And for whatever reason, I don't know, but if I could do something to help, I'm going to, of course. But anyways, I get this phone call. And of course, it shows up on my ID as Ollie. Happy to hear from him, thinking, well, I'm going to get an update on what's going on. He's living the good life. And, on his days off when he's not working as an SO, he's being a beach bum, whatever. And I said, what's going on, my brother? And he said, what's up? So I'm coming back. I was wondering if you had anything that you could help me with, a place to stay. We'll figure it out. Yeah. Waiting list isn't that bad at all. Just come on by. I said, or just give me your stuff. And I think I'd emailed him an app, and he emailed it back. And as usual, all the T's crossed, the I's dotted, and a big old smiley face on the back page. And I was like, wow. I said, even when he's not here, he's still making me laugh. That's the kind of guy that he was. That was the side that we love, the side that we never forget. That's something that, man, it'll bust you right in the field straight to hell and back. Now, the other side of him is when I saw him get serious in his job, when somebody was not complying or breaking some kind of a law, whatever that may be. Man, I saw him rock a Tundra almost up off the wheels with some guy. He was one of the best. The guy just would not stop. He wasn't complying, and I was like, wow. Then after that, though, Ollie made sure he was all right. Whoever came up with the phrase to protect and serve, they had to be thinking of that guy. And I do apologize. It's, y'all know how I get. I get angry, and I'm angry at this. Hurt. Confused. Why? Why him? I mean, why anybody? What's the deal with this thing? I know it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care about the color of your skin. It doesn't care about what God you pray to, if you pray to any. It doesn't care about none of this stuff. But, he was young. Younger than I am. He was the kind of guy I wanted to be like. I am lucky, though. 3 days before we lost him, and we lost him yesterday. 3 days before we lost him, I was texting him. I asked him how he was feeling. He said last night was rough. Today's a lot better. And I said, man, just focus on getting better and get out of there. And I love you. So he knew. And I wasn't the only one. There was a bunch of us that knew, that he knew, loved him. The episode that you're going to hear tonight, and actually not tonight, but next week, is dedicated to him. I remember when I told him, and I guess this was back in January, before the Mountain Mysteries launched. People knew it was coming, no big secret. But before it launched, he had walked into the office one day, or he'd come over here or something like that. And I think he took a look at the studio and he was like, wow. And this was he always had that big smile. He said, wow, he said, shut the front door. He said, you got to be kidding me. And I said, yeah. He said, where'd you learn to do all this? 20 years in radio, it was no big deal to me, but to him, it was a little piece of magic. And because of that, it made me feel like it was magical, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I remember, him sharing it. He'd talk about it, and he wasn't the only one. There was others. I've heard several of our officers telling other people, "Man, you got to listen to this thing. It's crazy. It's awesome." Words cannot describe how grateful I am to anybody that does that, especially our law enforcement. Because let me tell you something. If I hold up a badge right now, it's just a piece of metal. That's all it is. Tin, whatever it's made out of, I don't know. It's not the badge. It's the person behind it that makes it special, that makes it something. Every cop, every sheriff's deputy, every sheriff, every state trooper, every city police officer, anybody who dons that badge, be it federal on down, I thank you. Because of what you do, I can do what I do. And I sleep a little better at night. I was honored once to give a very small, I guess they were doing a citizens class, educating people about the Kentucky State Police. And I was honored to stand in front of a group of people one time because I'd went through it. I'd already been through that class and learned a lot of things about KSP that I didn't know. And I told him, and I think that this can be said for every single cop out there that's sitting behind a wheel for Thanksgiving or Christmas or any given day of the week, any cop that puts on that badge, that puts on that vest, that straps on the sidearm, when they're out there protecting your family, who is protecting theirs? Something to think about. So, this entire thing, this episode and next week's episode, is dedicated to Floyd County Sheriff's Officer 212. Oliver Little, rest in peace, brother. I love you. I remember he came in once, and when I told him the concept behind the Mountain Mysteries, what it was, true crime meets the paranormal. If you were to put it in a sentence, there it is. And his eyes got like big as saucers. He said, I love that. And I said, well, you're a cop, so, true crime's kind of your thing. He said, yeah. And the next episode, this one tonight, it's not lighthearted. And I don't want to take anything away from that. But it was already produced and pretty much built up by the time that we lost it. So next week, that one was pretty much done, but I went back in and changed it because that was his thing. To say he was one in a million just doesn't seem to do it justice. I've got people in that department that I would lay it down for. And I mean that because I know they'd do it for me. Even though he who may shed his blood for me shall be my brother. Yeah. It's all the time here. And all the time here. Ain't a damn thing glamorous about that job. I've been with them when they've done it with some of these guys, and there's nothing glamorous about it. It'll rip your heart out. But they do it because somebody has to. And a friend of mine once named Sean told me, many are chosen, few are calling. There's some people that God gave that extra something to. And they put that badge on and they go out there every day with a target strapped on their back, especially in these times. You know, when I was a kid, you respected and you revered police, your elders, you respected your parents, your grandparents. And even if they weren't your parents or grandparents, you damn well better respect them, because if your daddy found out that you didn't, God help you. There was no switches. No, he just bypassed that. Do not go to jail. Do not collect $200. Ass beating is around the corner. So I learned early. And you know what? That respect pays off, and it makes you feel good about doing the right thing yourself. Excuse me. Okay. So this one is for Ollie and for all of those that we've lost to COVID. I know that there's family members out there. I've lost friends to it. This one hit me especially hard. So for everybody who's lost anybody because of this or any other reason, know that our hearts are with you. We love you. We respect you. And we're praying for you every step of the way. And I do pray that the Heavenly Father will lead us out of this mess. Sometimes I think that's a big problem. We need to turn back to God. No, I don't think it's a problem. I know it's a problem. But I am very pleased and honored to be bringing on a host or a co-host, a friend, a guest, whatever you want to call him. Like I said, I don't stand on ceremony with this thing. I go freestyle, let the emotions run, because talking to you guys is talking to family. It's kind of like a therapy for me. And that's not the first time you've seen me break down. I've done it with April. I've done it with Dwayne. I've done it with all these cases that we've covered so far. And I will do it again, no doubt about it. So I do appreciate your patience and your kindness. But right now, I'd like to introduce a friend of mine. I had the honor and privilege of being on his podcast, Here to Chew Bubblegum, just a few weeks ago. And I think I was the first one to relate of the season a ghost story that, true experiences that I'd had some years back, and to this day still can't explain it. But he's a super great guy. Love him to death. He does a great job with this podcast. I highly recommend it. It's called Here to Chew Bubblegum, and he simply goes by the name of Goose. Goose, brother, how you doing this evening?
I am doing good, buddy. How about you?
I am doing great. Thanks a lot for the patience during my breakdown. So tell me,
You're totally fine.
tell me about Here to Chew Bubblegum.
Well, Here to Chew Bubblegum, we last year during the lockdown, I spent a lot of times being watching Netflix and listening and watching stuff on YouTube. And working the third shift, most of my life, I became a huge Art Bell fan. And for
anybody that doesn't know Art Bell, he was the host of Coast to Coast AM. Yes. Dealt with anything and everything paranormal, from UFOs to Bigfoot to take your pick. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah. Time travelers, other dimensions.
Yes.
Shadow people. And I didn't realize that Art Bell had came back in 2015 and did a show for a couple of years before he passed away. Yeah. And I went back and listened to every one of those shows on YouTube that I could find. And it was called Midnight in the Desert with Art Bell. And it was actually competing against Coast to Coast. So, and I thought, well, I tried to find similar podcasts after I'd listened to everything that he had done. And other than the Coast to Coast Now, which George Norrie's the host now. He does a great job. He's not Art Bell.
No,
You know,
there'll
nobody's
never be
going to hold
another
a
Art
flame
Bell.
to Art
Yeah,
Bell.
there's never going to be another Art Bell. No.
So I thought, I really want to do a podcast that first pays tribute and carries on the legacy of Art
Yeah.
Bell. And so I talked to a buddy of mine who's actually in the same city that you're in, or county that you're in, and he's got a podcast he's been doing since '05. So I asked him his advice, and he said, the only thing, I'm going to give you 2 pieces of advice. I said, okay. He said, when you come up with a name for your show, make sure you can get all the social media names: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all of those. He said, make sure you can get all those. I
Solid
said, okay.
advice.
And then he said, you need to buy a second line for your phone and use it as a show phone and let people call and text and leave voicemails. And I said, that's a really good idea. So I could not think of a name. I had come up with UFO, OFU, and that sounded dirty. So I scratched that one off. And then I started thinking about, I want to do a show about UFOs, time travel, X-Files type stuff. So I started thinking about, maybe I can call it Hey, Wait a Minute, Doc, from Back to the Future. That's actually a line from Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And so the website name was available. The Facebook name was available. The Instagram and YouTube page were taken. So I'm like, okay, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So then I just started thinking about movies with UFO themed or aliens. And I thought of They Live with John Carpenter, starring Roddy Piper.
Roddy
famous
Piper. Yep.
line in that movie is, I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all
out of bubblegum. Yeah. I loved it.
So I searched Here to Chew Bubblegum. It was available. Everything was available. So I immediately snatched everything up. And that's how we got the name for the show, for the website. So,
we've talked about this before too. It seems to me, Goose, like there's a ton of talent right here in the mountains of eastern Kentucky, southern West Virginia, Tennessee. But what the national media typically wants to unveil is the worst of the worst. The homes that are falling apart, the people that are sick or, are suffering from some kind of an addiction issue. I would just love once, and I hope at some point down the road that she sees this, for Diane Sawyer to get off her ass and come down here and actually look at the people of eastern Kentucky as they are. The majority of people here, and you have interactions with the public quite often.
yes.
But you'll see, the majority of the people are good people. They work. They're trying to do right, raise their families. What was it Alan Jackson said, and where I come from, in the song Where I Come From, working hard, just trying to get to heaven?
Yes.
That's what a lot of people in eastern Kentucky are about. They work hard. And they're some of the first people that are going to come to you at 3 o'clock in the morning in the pouring rain and help you change a tire. They will do that. I've had friends do that with me and help me get my, whatever clunker I was in at the time back on the road. I'm grateful and blessed now that I don't no longer have a clunker, but still, we've all been there. And I can't say that about everywhere else I've been. But we've got talent around here. Let me throw out a name, Seth.
Okay.
Seth's Daily Podcast. Elliot, Gertie, Beagle, the Spooky Family.
Yes.
The Spooky Family Podcast. Those guys are absolutely great. Tell me a little bit about some of your co-hosts on the show.
We actually, Elliot started on our show doing Elliot's articles, and we still have people asking for those. He says he's going to get us some real soon. Seasons 2 is going to get started. Like in the first one, he talked about the Men in Black, and he had a little 5 to 6 minute segment. He did the Men in Black. Yeah. And we played that on the show. We had a lot of people respond. He done a great job. And then he got he got Gertie and Beagle involved in it. And we actually took a break, and they did a fill-in show for us. And they done great. And, he even asked me, he's like, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. Do you care if we do our own podcast? I'm like, no, man, I'm very happy for you, We
promote that kind of thing.
Yeah. And he and I do too. And he said, well, I was a little bit nervous to ask you. And I told Gertie and Beagle that if you said no, we weren't going to do it. I'm like, no, absolutely do it, because we do have a lot of talent right here in East Kentucky,
Yeah.
with podcasts, with local musicians. You had
Mhm.
Trevor on a few weeks ago.
Oh,
Trevor's
Trevor
a
Huff.
legend. Yes,
Trevor is a legend around the.
yes,
I
he
mean,
is.
the guy had music back in the '90s that ESPN, ABC, NBC used on their sports stuff when he was fronting the band Flat Mary Stone. And guess where Trevor's from? He's from
Not
Eastern Kentucky. Yeah, Knott
yes,
County, and he does a lot of the music for the Mountain Mysteries. He asked me, because Trevor's like a brother to me. He said, "Would you care if I did you?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Would I care?" I said, "Let's talk money. What do I need to pay?" He said, I just want to do it." And I was like, I mean, to me, that was kind of like having John Bon Jovi say, "Hey, man, I want to write you a song to use on your program." Okay, how much is that going to cost? No, I just want to do it. I was like, Trevor
yeah,
is that good. He is. He's just gifted. And
yes,
I
he is.
actually think he's performing Friday or Saturday night one at Bank 253 in
I
Pikeville.
think it's Friday.
It may
I
be
don't know. I'm
Friday
not.
at 10 o'clock. It's
Yeah,
on Facebook, and I don't care to share that again on Facebook. But they go by the name of Great Scott,
yes.
which is a
Back to the
key
Future.
from Back to the Future,
So,
because they do 80s music acoustical covers. When we had hosted the celebration of life for April Pennington on May 8th of this year,
yes,
April was the reason the Mountain Mysteries exist. She is the reason. Trevor was kind enough and gracious enough to come up. Him and Russ and Janine were great. They came up and performed live for us. It just brought a whole another aura or another feeling. I mean, it was just that. It was a celebration of the lives of April Pennington, Tim Stambo, and Dwayne Lovelace. It was a Nobody was sitting around bawling. Nobody was sitting around crying. People enjoyed talking about our memories. The only one I think shed tears up there was me when I welcomed everybody and gave the speech as to why you're here. Let's remember why you're here, and let's celebrate their life. We've mourned a long time. Now it's time to remember them. Like I said about Ollie, let's not talk about the way he had passed. Let's talk about the way he lived. And to me, that's the right thing to do, I think.
yes, it is. And your first episode, your first and second one, those are by far my favorite. And me and you talked when you came to my studio a few
Yeah.
weeks ago. Your personal involvement drew me into that. And I think I told you this that day. I believe with everything in me. I don't know when, but I know that will be solved.
It will. It will. I just hope that I'm still drawing breath, because if I may, kiddies, cover your ears. I want to be there when those sons of bitches that took her life go down, and I'd love to see a judge throw them under a jail using every available resource and tool that the law provides. But for me to go out there and say, well, I'm going to take revenge on, because April, I loved April. She was a friend. She was a kind of like a kid sister. Um, that would make me taking vengeance into my own hands. That makes me no better than them. But for a judge to look at there and say, you're going to go to prison for the rest of your natural life, then we're going to revive you and you're going to serve another 25 years, that justice isn't about revenge, it's about balance. And I don't know that balance can be brought to this case, because every time I see her mom, you can see that heart ache in her eyes. You can see that hurt. And that's to say nothing of her brother and all the other people that loved and cared about her. Tim, same thing for Dwayne, same thing for all of these cases. And we've got some out there. I was up till 4 o'clock this morning, and I'll do it again, gratefully, revamping the intro for this, because I wanted to include people like Candy Green Gonzalez, Crystal Branham Hall, Kelly Holland Jr. from Knott County. That little boy's been missing since the early '80s.
Yeah.
Nobody knows, where are they at. How do these people grieve if you don't even know where they are at? There's no place for them to go and pay respects. There's no place for them to go and sit down and just sit beside of their resting place and just talk to them. Let me tell you something. My mom and dad is in Bushnell, Florida, in a military cemetery. And I was not able to go down last year because of the pandemic. I've not been able to go down yet this year, but let me tell you, there's nothing like me putting my hand where their resting place is and saying, "Mom, Dad, I love you. I miss you. I hope I'm doing right by you." Nothing like it. Because I leave out of there with whatever reason. Maybe it's up here, maybe it's in here, but I leave there with a sense of peace. But these people don't have that,
No.
which brings me, and I wanted to get your take on this.
Okay.
We've all heard the name Gabby Petito.
Yes.
It's everywhere you turn. 33, 34, 35, 36 million hits on Google when you type in the girl's name. Now, don't get me wrong, and I don't want anybody to misunderstand me. I pray to God that that girl gets justice. I do. But we have got an enormous amount of Indigenous women that are missing, murdered, and they get absolutely no attention. Now, I'm going to address the pink elephant in the room. Let's see. Gabby's blonde. She's pretty. She's white. Let's cover her. This is going to be good ratings. That's what I think the media is doing. Personal opinion.
Oh, and you said it might have been last week or week before last you were talking about that, and I totally agree with where you're coming from. If you're going to do that for one person, the way that they've covered this, they need to do it for everybody straight across the board.
Thank you, Goose. You're absolutely right. These women that are not receiving so much as a nickel's worth of attention deserve no less attention than Gabby got. Now, even Gabby's dad said, "I am amazed and beyond grateful that she is receiving this attention." I'm sure he is, and I'm happy that he is. But why can't news media with major outreach, like any one of the big three, four, five, whoever they are, come out and say, "Hey, what about these people, these Native American women who have been murdered, who have been abducted? Why is nobody talking about them?" Oh, well, I'll tell you why. In my opinion, oh, well, we're not going to get the same sponsorships as if we're talking about Gabby, or as if we're talking about Natalie Holloway, or if we're talking about this person, that person, pretty, white, and whatever. And look, guys, you see this? I'm a white guy. But I do believe that justice should be colorblind. It should be ethnic blind. There should be no consideration for ethnicity. If the American justice system is going to work the way it's intended to, then it needs to be and justice for all. Well, that's a hell of a concept, but you got to follow through with it. You got to make that happen first. And that means for all people, not just white, blonde, red hair, whatever. Every human being that is a resident of this country. And now, when it comes right down to it, I believe that every human being deserves justice, especially their families. Where's the answers at for these people? What's going on there?
I totally agree with you. And, at the same time, there's been so much focus on this investigation. And it makes me wonder what we're missing out on.
Yeah.
What we're not being told is going on
I
somewhere
agree.
else with something else.
I agree. One of the things, and like I said, this entire thing, this entire episode, and next week's episode is dedicated to Ollie. And one of the things I loved so much about him, Justin, Kevin, and so many of my brothers and sisters that serve, these people believe that there should be justice for everybody. And that's what they work towards. They work towards that end. I'll never forget once, Ollie and I had a discussion about something similar to this. And he said, "Well, let me ask you a question." And I said, "Okay." He said, "Are they breathing?" "Yeah." "Do they have thoughts?" "Well, I'm sure they do." "Okay, let me slim this down. Are they human beings?" "Yeah." He said, "Then that's it. That's all I need to know." That was Ollie. And that's Justin. That's so many people. Dusty. I mean, take your pick. There's so many people there that I know that serve with the Floyd County Sheriff's Office, state police, and a lot of other places that wear that badge. They don't give a rat's rear end about the color of your skin, what God you pray to. They don't care what your sexual orientation is. They don't care about anything other than, okay, if you're breaking the law, you're going to jail. Chances are. unless there's extenuating circumstances or something's up. Or, maybe the law that they broke wasn't so severe. I've been pulled over a few times for speeding. I ain't gone to jail yet, but I've also never gave them trouble because I don't want to be a statistic. I don't. But they've always been cool with me. They've always been okay. Sometimes you get a ticket, sometimes you don't, but they've always treated me with respect. Never have, and personally, I can say I have never been accosted or I have never been threatened by any Leo. They're always like, you know why I pulled you over? Yeah, that 74 and a 55 might have something to do with it. And a lot of times they'll go, you told the truth. You just admitted it. And well, yeah, because that's the way I was raised. My dad used to say, oh, you can do it. But if you get caught, you'd better own it. And that's what I do. Now, do I drive that way? I'm 50, man. My idea of what would I call excessive excitement involves something I really like to eat for dinner coming home to that. And that's my idea of excessive excitement these days. But, and doing stuff like this, I love being in the studio and I love producing stuff. And I love working with my son-in-law and my daughter. Arrow does the research and co-writes. My daughter does the artwork. She's brilliant at that. He is brilliant at what he does. And honestly, Goose, I never had the idea and I didn't know about what I would call discrimination concerning Indigenous women until Arrow brought it to my attention. He said, do you realize, sitting right there at the kitchen table, he said, do you realize, and he pointed out these facts to me, and I said, is that viable facts? Can you back that up? He said, yes. And he came into my studio, got on the computer, and showed me statistics from a government website. And then these websites that have been established, because apparently the government doesn't show a great deal of these things, but these advocacy groups do. And I'm like, oh, well, that's going to fly like the Hindenburg. I said, we've got to talk about this. Now, what good can we do? Until somebody starts to talk, nothing's going to get done.
You're exactly right. And to back up what you said, in East Kentucky, we have some really good officers and sheriff's deputies.
We do.
All
some of
across
the best. I'd put some of these people against anybody in the world.
But in East Kentucky, they stand out.
They do.
If I travel to a different part of Kentucky, somebody asks me where I'm from, I always say I'm from the better part of the state. I'm from Eastern Kentucky. Sometimes that gets a chuckle. Sometimes that gets me dirty looks.
Yeah, it does. And sometimes they get you looking down to see if you got shoes on.
Yeah. Well, that's actually happened before.
It has to me too. I was in Los Angeles and it happened. Where are you from? I'm from Kentucky. Oh, like Louisville, Lexington. I said, no, I'm from a little place I was born in Paintsville. Paintsville. I was close to Pikeville, close to the Virginia line, Tug River, West Virginia. And they looked at me and he went, well, you don't sound like you are from Eastern Kentucky. And I said, oh, well, hang on here just a second, by God. Is this how you think we all sound? And he said, yeah. And I said, no, we don't. I said, there's a lot of intelligent people in Eastern Kentucky, a lot of well-educated people. We have doctors, we have lawyers, we have police officers. I said, hell, we've even got a special, an SRT, KSP SRT, special response team. And he said, SRT? I said, yes, SWAT. That's what you all call it. I said, but we just dropped a letter. That way we could get busier kicking more ass. And he was like, oh. And then he looked down to see if I had shoes on. I said, oh, hell yeah. I said, those right there are called New Balance. I said, we've even got indoor outhouses.
Yeah. And, you still get a lot of people out of this area that really shocks them.
It does.
One of the first emails that we got was from a lady named Lori from the UK. Mm-hmm. And she started out the email. She said, once I got over your accent, I was able to enjoy the show, and she went on to say that, it was well prepared. We'd done research and, and she's an avid listener, she writes in every so often. Mm-hmm. And, but she's never let me live that down. She'll end each email, that she loves my accent. So
some people do. But the individual, I had actually gone out there and I got invited out for what was a custom chopper build at Pro One. And that was the name of the company.
Right.
And of course, they manufactured parts for motorcycles and aftermarket parts, custom grips, and you get the idea. Anyways, we're out there, and I'm with a group of people, and it was this guy's wife, and she said, "So where are you from?" I said, "Kentucky." Oh, well, you don't sound like you're from Kentucky. And I said, and that's when I said, "Oh, you think we all sound like yeah?" And I just remembered, that is so many people's perception. And I remember the day that we left, was getting in a car. We was going to go to North Hollywood, South Hollywood, or Hollywood and Vine and all that stuff and check out Beverly Hills just to say I've been there.
Right.
And I'm driving down the street and I see things and I look over at the girl I'm with at the time and I said, they think we're strange. And she's like, yeah, I know, right? But it was beautiful. But before we got in the car, I remember her coming to me and she said, I wanted to thank you for changing my perception on things. And she said that she'd like to consider herself an educated person. And I said, well, of course. And she said, are most people from Eastern Kentucky like you? And I said, well, I'd assume so. I said, we work. We try to live a good life. We try to have fun when we can. I said, maybe my idea of fun may be different from other people. I said, there's a lot of people that love and enjoy ATVs and four-wheelers and horseback riding. I said, I'm a motorcycle guy. I love motorcycles. I love Harleys. That's my thing. I said, but each person is as unique as they are themselves, as the individual allows. I said, it's entirely up to who they are. But yeah, I said, I don't know of anybody that has an outhouse. And she actually thanked me for clearing that up. She said, I just thought that the Appalachians were so far behind. And I said, there's places everywhere. I said, let's talk about your place here in Los Angeles. It's called Skid Row. She said, I really don't want to talk about that. And I said, no. But every place has its good and bad.
Yes, they do. And, I've traveled a lot. And one of the worst cities that I really don't like was Chicago. I just really didn't.
You ever heard of Chicago Echo?
No.
Hello? Shut the
yeah.
hell up. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a Chicago Echo.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's how they are. Yeah, I know some people, but now I've also met people from Chicago that are great folks.
Yeah,
They're
well,
great
I mean,
people.
and I'm sure there's that, and there were great people there, but it's like the
Yeah.
streets was too crowded. Every time
Yeah,
I went out, somebody was trying to shine my shoes, and
or clean your windshield on your car. Yeah.
yeah, they actually tried that as well.
Yeah, New York's got it too.
Yeah,
Maine
really,
was beautiful. Maine. Now you talk about some accents. I loved Maine because hey, would you like some lobster? I'm like, what? I said, I'll just take a burger, thanks. I'm good. But yeah, it was. But the people up there were very friendly because I'm sitting here thinking, oh man, we're going north. They're going to be jerks. They're going to be. I never encountered that. They were all very friendly, very welcoming. Took us, showed us different places. I actually had a guy who I guess you'd call him an Uber driver.
yes,
Who took me up to Big Moose Harley Davidson, which is in Maine. Because if there's a Harley shop within a 30-mile radius, I've got to go to it. And turns out this guy and I had something in common. He rode a Harley. He's got a Dyna. He said, so what you got? And at the time I had an Ultra Classic. I said, I got an Ultra Classic. He said, man, that's a sweet bike, right? This guy was cool as he could be. And he is like, man, and got out of the car and we done the fist bump and reached over and patted me on the back. He said, brother, you stay cool. He said, I hope I get to take you somewhere and take you on a tour again. Super nice people. They're all over the world. And that's exactly why God hasn't brought this thing to an end yet. But what somebody had asked me the other night, Goose, well, did you see this on the news? I don't watch the news. And I'll tell you why, because it's too damn depressing. And I get angry.
yeah.
I get angry. I would rather do my research online, because some of the topics that, and this, you have dealt with. One of my favorite things about here to Chew Bubblegum is the variety of topics that you cover. The Spooky Family, I love those guys because they focus in on some pretty weird stuff, but
Yes.
it's and I'm talking about spiritual, paranormal. Here to Chew Bubblegum focuses on so many things, and it's kind of like, the what I'm thinking of, the Hershey's mixed bag of candies.
Yeah.
You open it up, you stick your hand in there, you don't know what you get, but you know it's going to be good. That's what you're doing. and that's what I love about it. I just think it's awesome.
Thank you
One
very
week I
much.
may hear about hear about something paranormal. Let's say I may hear about a Bigfoot topic. The next week I may hear something about UFOs. The next week I may hear something about hauntings, and we don't know. And the Mountain Mysteries is kind of like that too. But at the core of every single episode we do, if you're going to listen to most of them, even the one on Black Mountain in Australia, and we've got listeners, our listenership in Australia all of a sudden just started going, boom, 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 boom. And I'm looking at our numbers growing in Queensland, Victoria, and all these other places. And it's because of one episode that we did on a place called Kalkahaka, which translated in Aborigine means spear. Everybody calls it the Black Mountain because there's something up with that place. And there's so many people that have lost their lives there. But everything that we do has to do with the people. But when I want to get a relief, which is often, I'll plug in, and of course I've subscribed, and I want you to share some big news with us here in a minute too. I'm here to Chew Bubblegum, and of course I get the notifications, new episode. And I got a really good inside friend, that would be you, who on occasion will text me and say, "Hey bro, you got to check this one out." And I'm like, love it. So great work. Keep up the job. And I understand congratulations are in order.
Thank you very much. Yes, they are. I will unofficially announce this here and then officially announce it on the show Sunday. Currently, we can be heard on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. I got notification and signed papers this morning. Every episode that we've done so far is now on the Pandora app.
Awesome.
And,
Congratulations.
You just search it for Chew Bubblegum, and it will take you to every episode that we
on Pandora. So that's a big deal.
Yes. Hopefully, I had somebody had inside stuff recommended me do this, and I've been working on getting this together since I actually submitted the demo. It was the last weekend in July, so it's been this long to finally get approved, and I was over the moon when I opened the email this morning, and it said, "Congratulations, you're here at Chew Bubblegum Show."
We have one of our listeners, and I don't mean to interrupt, but one of our listeners just messaged us, "Heck yeah, Pandora is my go-to in the car."
Well,
so to that individual, her name's Jessica, check out Here to Chew Bubblegum.
Yes, thank you very much, Jessica.
And I love how you came up with a name, because do you remember the scene? He walks in with that shotgun. He says, "I'm here to chew bubble gum and kick ass." He looks around, and I'm all out of bubble gum. Only Roddy Piper could have delivered that.
Yes. And that was a total ad lib that John Carpenter had picked. Yes. Because Roddy had wrote a few things down. He was running some by John Carpenter, and Carpenter picked that one. He said, "I want you to do that one." And
it fit the character to a T.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Roddy Piper was a lot of things, including a wonderful wrestler, a wonderful entertainer, and a great actor.
Yes, he was.
I mean, the guy was a hero to me when I was growing up.
I actually met him in 2007. And
did you really?
Yes, I did. I was at in Indianapolis at a horror convention. And I was like the second and third in line. And he had just been diagnosed at that time with his stomach cancer. Yeah. And I was just talking to him, and I told him flat out, I said, whenever you faced Hulk Hogan when I was little, I would always root for you. And he talked to me and my friends that were there for like 10 minutes. His handler had to tap him on the shoulder and say, "Hey, your line's getting long. You need to hurry up." And before we left, he's like, "Do you want a picture?" He took a picture with me for free, autographed a picture for free, and and that's something I've never forgotten.
That tells me volumes about what kind of a guy he was.
He was a great guy.
Just a super awesome guy. Yeah. When I worked with Q95 FM, I got to hang out with Taylor Dane, Eddie Money, and so many others. To be honest, talked to Jeff Dunham on the phone. That was a riot. Actually, I didn't talk to Jeff. I talked to Walter.
Okay.
Wow. And so I'm sitting here thinking to myself, this is really pretty cool. But now you spent some time in broadcasting yourself in terrestrial radio.
Yes, I have.
Now, your dad, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your dad had roots in broadcasting.
Yes, he worked in broadcasting his whole life.
Mhm.
At age 14, that's when he got me into broadcasting. And from age 14 to 21, I worked strictly. I done about everything you could do in radio. I done on-air stuff. I done news, which I was terrible at. I sold ads. I didn't do sports,
Mhm.
but I did pretty much everything else. And then at 21, I got into something else that I'd always wanted to do.
Mhm.
But you said earlier that you're 50. I'm just a little bit behind you, so
Yeah.
I'm looking for something else. And when I heard Art Bell, like I said last year, I just the motivation and fire was lit again, and
Yeah.
it's just like everything came full circle. And I've
You know,
I've, I've met a lot of great people through the show, locally, and I'm blessed for that. Yourself, uh, Elliot, Gertie Beagle. I knew them prior, but I've got closer with them.
do you not feel
Seth,
sorry for Beagle sometimes?
yes, I do.
It's
Yes, I do.
like he always gets the short end. You guys got to check out the Spooky Family podcast. And let's also mention somebody else, Seth.
Yes.
Great
Seth
guy.
is a great guy. Seth actually has a segment on our show.
Mhm.
Currently, this month, at this time, we're on 4 terrestrial radio stations in
Mhm.
our area. And Seth is doing a segment on our show that's on the radio station show. And, Seth is knocking it out of the park. Seth's Daily Podcast with Seth Enberg.
I don't see how he does one every day. Elliot and I have talked about that, and I'm like, every day? Because it takes me a solid 4 days to produce, write, co-write, produce.
Right.
And, it takes Arrow several hours to research because we want the facts out there as much as we know them to be factual. We've actually left several parts out of episodes because we had heard rumor that was it, but rumor is not fact until it's substantiated. And I'm not going to be spreading lies and rumors.
Let me ask you a question
Mhm.
about your research. Over the last year, have you found yourself using DuckDuckGo more to do research than you have Google, for instance?
I would have to talk to Arrow about that because he does the majority of the research. But I do know that he goes to lengths to make sure that what we're learning is factual.
Well, sometimes on certain subjects, Google holds stuff back.
Yes, they do.
And you can actually go to DuckDuckGo.com. It's basically a Google, but it's non-restricted. It's not owned by a big company, and you get more hits. And I'd like to ask you for a favor.
Sure.
Episode 9, The Mystery of 657 Boulevard.
657 Boulevard, yeah. Mhm.
You have to do an update.
Okay.
You have to do a part 2 to that.
We can do that. That's actually one of our biggest that's one of our heavily downloaded episodes. So far,
unbelievable episode.
Yeah, my daughter actually did the voice of the Watcher, and she had come to me. She said, "Okay, so," she said, "I'm not trying to sound Hollywoodish, but how should I sound? What's my motivation?" I said, "You're getting ready to come unhinged." And I'll never forget. She's sitting in this chair, and she turns around. She looks at me, and she goes, "Well, that shouldn't be hard." And she just turns around. She says, "Go, go." And she said, "Well, that shouldn't be hard." And I was like, okay, well, but the performance she delivered in that was, I thought, phenomenal.
It was great.
And yeah, it was, because I'm the storyteller. But if I can get somebody in here that I know and I can believe in, and she is that person, that she can sit down in this chair. If you'll listen to episode, maybe it's 6 or 8, it's called Frozen. She does the role, that was about the Breathitt County flood.
Yes.
That wiped out, it took one life is too many, but it took upwards of 40 or 50 lives, almost 60. And she did the voiceover characterization of a young lady who survived, who was in that floodwater and survived it. And when I heard it, I was like, oh my God. You're sitting there thinking, you could hear her voice tremble. And it was almost like I was listening to that girl in real life describing the most traumatic event of her life. And I looked at her And I said, if I could give you an Oscar performance right now, and Goose, I don't say this crap to people, not even my own kid. You get what you get. You earn what you get. But I told her, I said, that was the most incredible voice work I think I've ever heard. It was insatiable. And of course, she got all teary eyed and gave her dad a hug. And she said, so you're going to use it? And I said, yes, like yesterday. And I've had so many people comment, who did you get to do that? That's really when she first got to be known by our listeners as more than just an artist.
Right.
And that's when I first thought, if anybody could take this thing out from under me, that I would trust, it would be her. And have no doubts about it. She's got heart.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
That can be good and bad. So I'm blessed to have her. And I'm blessed to have my son-in-law helping me. He loves this stuff too. He believes in this podcast. And, we've all talked about, family. We've all talked about here at Chew Bubblegum, Seth Daily, and a host of others. And we were just like, there's so much talent around here. The problem seems to be getting it out.
Yes.
It takes time to do that. So it's like, I'm, always discussing about new ideas, and I'm always open to new ideas to get us out there. And get through, we're on the major platforms, of course. We're on a lot of the minor ones too. And we're lucky to work with Q95 FM. They're pushing us and promote us, and we do the same for them. That station became like my family away from my family. Lauren, Carla, and I still work with them to this day. On occasion, they'll say, hey, can you do this commercial? Yeah, I'll be happy to. So we do stuff like that too. So, but yeah, I just think that there's so much out here, just like this thing says, we are dedicated and should be committed. So it's because you do this long enough, as well as I do, you're going to question your intent. You're like,
oh yeah. We get some emails sometimes. We have one this past Sunday that made me, or it may have been on a radio show that we pre-recorded Monday. And, I tried not to laugh when I was reading it. I don't have it in front of me, but I did, I think, laugh a little bit. But, you have, and it seems like our listeners realize, when we're joking and they pick up on and laugh with us. Because we had the listeners just a few weeks ago send a 2.5-page email. And, my co-host, Dirty Dan, read the entire email. And I told him beforehand, I said, no, before you start reading this, all of this might not make it into the final edit of the show, just so you know. And, and I'm very blessed and thankful for everybody that listens. And, like yourself, we have listeners from all over the world. Just recently, in the last couple of weeks, we've had listeners from Switzerland and just this week, Sudan. We've had listeners in Sudan. Which
does that not amaze you?
Yes.
Me too. I remember looking at Arrow and Cody and saying, they even speak English there? And Arrow is just deadpan to me and says, Chris, English is everywhere. Just because the country doesn't predominantly speak that language doesn't mean there's not people there that do speak that language. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I guess you're right. So I'm learning. What do you do? Yeah. But when I look down and I see listeners in Thailand, listeners in Mexico, Canada, I get, Canada, many speak French there, but there's a lot of English people. But some of these other places, I'm like, Berlin, Luxembourg, I thought they all spoke German. And again, I was reminded that may be the predominant language, but there are people there that speak English. So yeah, but every time I look at that, I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. But apparently we are doing something right. Just, Ellie, we're doing something right. So we are getting out there. It just takes time for that to build and build and build.
Yes, right. It does. But,
that's what I know.
Also, from Eastern Kentucky, Justin Perkins with Talk Junkie. His, I don't know if you've listened to his show. I listen to every episode that he puts up because he reminds me of an old man sitting on the front porch peeling an apple with a pocket knife. You learn something when you listen to his show, and it changes
What's the name of it?
Talk Junkie. with
Talk
Justin
Junk.
Perkins.
We'll have to
And
check that out.
he does a great job with that.
Okay.
He's
So
actually been on our show, and he's been on the Spooky Family podcast as well.
awesome. Well, there's a lot of great. There is so much here. There is. I'm going to go ahead and drop something about the future episodes coming up. On the next one, not tonight. The night tonight is Even the Devil Smiles, and that's the one talking about the fact that so many of our Native American or Indigenous women that are missing aren't getting any attention. But next week, the one that we've dedicated to Ollie. What if I told you Jeepers Creepers, the film that was released in 2001, was based in some form of fact? That's what it's about. And we will be talking about that on the gatherings next week. And maybe we can get you and Elliot in on this one. Because this is right up the Spooky Family's alley. This is right up their alley. Because, what was it that you said? They're not really comedians. They're just having a lot of fun in a spooky haunted house.
Yes.
And I'm like, sounds about right. Yeah. But they're great folks and they're great people, and I love them dearly. And Seth has become like a younger brother. He and the work he puts in to what he does. I got to respect him, and I'm happy to do so. So you are going to be available on Pandora, and you're already available on Apple, Spotify, and just about anywhere podcasts are found.
Yes.
And it's Here to Chew Bubblegum.
Yep. And you can check out the website, here to chewbubblegum.com.
Great. Thank you. So make sure to check out that. Also, folks, here to chewbubblegum.com. Man, I can't can't thank you enough for being on with us.
Anytime. It's an honor for me to be on. Thank you for having me on, Chris.
Well, I appreciate it, Goose, and God bless you and take care, brother.
God bless you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you do check that out. It's a great podcast. You won't miss it. Now we come to the end of this particular episode. And I just want to offer a heartfelt condolence, love, and respect to Ollie's family, the Floyd County Sheriff's Department, and everyone that knew him. He was someone that will never be forgotten, and someone that was taken away entirely too soon. This is one of those things that leaves you at a loss for words. I don't know what to say. Well, maybe I do. Ollie, I love you, brother. And thank you for everything. I'm Chris Sloan for the Mountain Mysteries Gatherings, which is this, and the Mountain Mysteries podcast, which you can find, you guys know where. It's about all over the place. Oh, speaking of the Chills 1 and 2 are released now. Chill 3 for Patreon folks will be available Monday at around 6 p.m. And then, of course, it also drops on the podcast, the same place you found the Mountain Mysteries. That'll drop on Thursday, I believe. And the other one, I guess number 2, was released this evening. So thank you for bearing with me. I love you guys. Look, I'm not into anti or pro-vaccination. Your opinion is your opinion on that, and I respect that. But please stay safe and stay healthy. And let's all, I think we can agree on, let's pray for those who are battling this, those families who are also battling it with their loved ones. And let's pray that this thing goes away like the dusk at dawn. Not a one of you out there I don't appreciate. And to every one of you, I thank you for all of your support. I love you. May God bless you. May He keep you safe. Until next time, I'm Chris Sloan for the Mountain Mysteries. On behalf of Cody and Daryl Wilson, stay mysterious. A Pantry Studio production.
From one coast to the other, mysteries are everywhere. and we will continue to pursue the answers to those questions and more. Please share, like, and rate the Mountain Mysteries podcast and tell your friends to tune in on Facebook or YouTube. The Mountain Mysteries gatherings are each Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you'd like to support the Mountain Mysteries search and help these families, join us on Patreon, or you can make a one-time donation as well. The Mountain Mysteries and the Mountain Mysteries gatherings are property of the Pantry Studios and Chris Sloan, who writes and produces the content. If you would like to reach out to the Mountain Mysteries, please email us at pantrystudio@yahoo.com. Until next time, my friends, stay mysterious.
A Pantry Studio production.